How's you going, boys? Mike here. Welcome back to Grampie's Workshop. Some nice news to come back again today for this follow-up project I have to do on my Massey Ferguson GC 2300. Remember a while back I made a video about putting an external plug on the tractor so I could get access to a battery without having to raise the hood. I'll put a link to that video up here if you want to watch that. That was a good idea. It works good, but the wiring and the plug really was too small for jump starting the tractor. I tried to jump start it one day, it just overheated, didn't like it. I didn't feel safe using it. So what I did was I went and ordered some bigger plugs. These ones, I'll put a link to these plugs too in the description down below. But I got these from Amazon and they're good for 350 amps, I think it was, and for up to number 2 cable. So what I have also is a set of jumper cables, an old set I had here in the shop, and I'm going to use those jumper cables and make direct connection now from the battery to this external plug. I'm going to try and mount this on the tractor somehow to see if this will work better so that I can jump start using the plug, not having to raise the hood. So let's go see how I make out. So I'm working here on the tractor and I've taken the battery out here now because I'm going to be replacing those cables, eh? And then when I took the battery out, I noticed that the tray, it's hard to see it in there because it's so dark, but the tray was pretty rusty that the battery sits on. So I sanded that down a little bit and put some just some black trim clad rust paint on it, and hopefully that'll hold it for a while. Okay, I took the battery out of the tractor here because I'm getting ready to run that new jumper cable wire. So then while I had the battery out, I want to take a look at it. The tractor's always been hard to start. Well, ever since I got the tractor, it's been hard to start. This is the second battery I ever had in the tractor. First battery had a bad cell in it, and the battery just wouldn't produce current. It would take a charge and it would look really good. When you put a meter on it, put a load on it, would go right down almost to no current at all. And I'm thinking maybe that's what's happening with this one, because when I tried to start my tractor, like this morning, I had to jump start the tractor again this morning, by the way, it was -10, wouldn't go. When I started, the battery voltage shows good, but as soon as it starts to crank, it'll drop down to like 6.5 or 7 volts. And I'm thinking this just can't produce current the way it once could. So while I was redoing the wiring there, I took the battery out because I wanted to check it over. But when I took it out, I looked at it and I found this little sticker on the side. It says 213. So it was made in February of 2013, and this is 2023, so the battery's 10 years old. I think it's time to change it. So I'm going to go to town and get a new battery. So when I was looking around for batteries, you know, like what size battery do I get? I have to make sure there's not a lot of room in the tractor to place the battery, so I have to make sure it's the exact replacement size, the width, the height, and everything. So I was taking measurements, blah blah, all that stuff, eh? Well, I come to find out when I do a little checking around that there's kind of a standardized sizing for automotive batteries. And this one is a size 51, it says right on the battery here, 51.2, and I found that on a website that I found on the internet. So I'm going to go to town and see if I can find a size 51 battery that has at least 650 cranking amps, and we'll take that home and we're going to put that in the tractor. Okay, I'm struggling where I'm going to put my my plug here for the extension cable. I ended up a lot of different ideas, but I thought that I'll put it here because this is probably going to be the easiest spot to remove it from, because no matter where I put it, it's not going to be the right spot, eh? So I'm kind of thinking ahead that way. So I'm thinking if I bolt that through there, then this can just bolt right on right there, and then that'll leave lots of access here for my mating plug to hook onto it. There's no interference on the posts here or anything like that, so I think that's going to work good. So that's where I'm going to put it. So while I have that clamped in place, I'm going to mark, there's 4 holes already in this. There's 2 holes on this side of the bracket, but of course they're the wrong way. I need them front to back, not side to side. So I'm just going to mark those, doctor this up a little bit and drill out some of those holes, mount that plug on there just so that it's a little bit over the edge. And then my cable should be able to come through the back and go down under the footboard and up through this cowling and into the battery compartment. Alright, I thought rather than put a center punch mark, I'm just going to drill a hole, put 1 bolt in it, and then take the clamp off and drill the others. So here we go. Okay, so I got my other 2 holes drilled in my bracket here, so I'm going to try to locate this bracket. I don't know if I need other bolts in there or not, do I? Okay, so now we're going to mount our plug on here. With the washer and the nut. There. Boy, oh boy, that's not going to move, is it? Okay, so I think that's where that's going to live. Now, I'm going to cut the cables and run the cables from here underneath the floorboard and up through this, along here, and up to my battery compartment. Okay, so I ended up putting 4 bolts in this little bracket just because I managed to drill a couple of those holes on that side. I put my plug on here just loose because I'll take that off in a minute because I'm going to connect this these jumper cables to it eventually. But I put some stake-on ends or bolt-on plug ends here on the end of it, soldered them in and put the shrink wrap on them. Okay, so I've got this connection made here on the positive post. It runs down underneath. And then the connection here in the negative post runs down underneath, goes around back under the dash there and comes out along here and down along the side and comes out here under the floorboards. So now all I have to do is get this kind of tidied up in under there and figure out about how much I'd like to cut off here. I don't want it to get in the way of anything. So I think I'm going to cut it right about there. So we'll see how that works out. Alright, so there's my ends on the cable. I have to remember to put my rubber boot on there. And then this is the plug. And the plug goes on this way with the positive on the left hand side. So I was very careful when I put these ends on to make sure I had them oriented right so I wouldn't have to be twisting and turning the wires. So I think it's going to work out alright. I think I did it right. Let's just see if I can push these in here. They should push in and click. Just like that, 2 clicks. We can see the contacts in there. That's good and solid. I'm going to get that mounted up in there. Something like that. Now what I want to do is get the line fished in, the jumper cables fished in there so that they're not twisted or kinked or anything like that. So that's going to be a bit of a challenge, I think. But we'll see. I have a washer and a nut that goes on this. A washer. And it's a nylock nut, so hopefully it'll stay in place. When you read about nylock nuts, they're great, you know. What a nylock nut is, in case you're not familiar. It's a lock nut that has a bit of a nylon insert in here, and then that grips on the threads of the bolt and holds it in place. But they say you should only use a nylock nut once and then toss it out. It doesn't hold as good the second time. But since this project is done on a limited budget, we're going to go ahead and reuse it. I rarely, if ever, throw anything out. I don't want to tighten this so much I break the connector. That should be good. Alright, and then my rubber boot. I can reach my rubber boot, and my rubber boot can go on like so. Kind of looks professional, don't you think? Okay, now I'm going to finish running this cable up under the floorboard here. Get it as much out of the way as I can. Alright, after some wrestling, I've got my positive lead connected on the positive battery terminal. and it goes down in back under the dash. And then I've got the negative lead connected on the negative terminal, and then they fish around the side and they come out down here and they go way down in through there and they come out under the floorboard and back over the connector. And the connector here has the boot on it, so I can plug my other cable in there, and in fact I'm going to go put the other cable together now, so let's go look. Alright, so this is the other end. I left the alligator clips on this end because I don't know what I'm going to be connecting it to. But anyway, just like when I was doing the plug on the tractor, I made sure that the orientation of these plugs when I was soldering them on would fit into this connector the proper way. So I think I lucked out again. This should go on here in 2 clicks. 1, 2. It comes with this nice little D handle in that hole. And then put the nut on. There we go. Alright, so let's go plug her in, see if it works. Alright, it's a cold and miserable morning. And it's 10 below. Tractor won't start. What are you going to do, right? Well, I'm going to go out and I'm going to take my weather cap off of here. I already have my weather cap off of my extension cable. And then that just goes right in there. It clicks in, good solid connection. And now I have these cables here ready to go to a battery, another vehicle, another set of jumper cables or whatever. And when I'm finished, unplug that, put my weather boot back on, and also put the weather boot back on my jumper cables, and we're good to go. I think that's going to work good, eh? It's good and solid there, that's what I like. And it's out of the way of the loader. I made sure that when the loader comes on, the arm comes down something like this. So there's no danger of anything getting in around that. The cables are nice and close in by the floorboard, and there's still plenty of access there to get at the fuel filter. So that's out of the way. I think that's going to be good. Alright, now the only thing left to do is to make sure that these cables are well out of the way and get my battery mounted back in there. And then you have to wrestle with the little battery clamps that hold the battery in place. There's my new battery. And by the way, this battery, it's a size 51, and the most I could get was 500 cranking amps. So that's the beefiest battery I can get for my tractor. I'm not sure how well it's going to work, but anyway, there it is. Now I'm going to put this negative post connector on first. Alright, now for the test. Put this on, see what happens. No sparks. Ain't that beautiful? It's a beautiful thing, as Bruce Pender would say. Spread these apart. Get that down on there as best I can. So probably the hardest part of the whole job, I have to get this little battery holder in place. Okay, that goes on in there. Okay, so that's good and tight. That's good and tight. That's good and tight. My cable's all strung in there good. Let's see if I can make it turn over here. Fuel pump works. Oh yeah, she's a success. All right, now I should have 12 volts here on these tabs. One of the things I was wrestling with was if I put this connection, this cable in here direct to the battery, I have 12 volts here all the time and it's unfused. If anything happened to that cable, you know, I could short out the battery, could destroy the battery, who knows what all could happen. However, there's the battery cables themselves that run like from the battery to the starter engine, starting motor, things like that. They're unfused. You know, they just take care of how you run the wires. So that's what I tried to do, tried to make sure that they were tucked in there as best I could. There's maybe a little chafe spot right here next to the floorboard. You can't see it there because it's behind this post. So I might put a little piece of tape or something around that, or a piece of rubber just to protect it a little bit. But anyhow, I think that's going to be all right. So now what I want to do is I want to measure and make sure that I am getting 12 volts DC out here. And there's plus and minus already marked in that, so plus is on the left. So if I stick that probe in there, stick that probe in there, I measure, if you can see that, 12.7. Right? Now, if I take this, just to check this, plug this in. Now what I have is two alligator clips here that could short together. Now, the other little cable that I had nicer, I think, nicer alligator clips, so I might change them. These are kind of big and bulky, and they do have a chance of touching together. So I may change them and put my little alligator clips on here, the ones I had in that other little cable, because they were fully protected. They had plastic right out to the end of them. But let's just check and see if my connection is good in this little extension cable that I made. So if we clip that on there, clip that on there. So that's saying 12.7 as well. So that's good. Unhook that. Everything is isolated now. Put my weather boot on there. That's great. So I cut these big alligator clips off because they were just too dangerous of them coming together and arcing. So I cut them off, and then I used the smaller alligator clips that I had from that other set of jumpers that I made. And they go in there pretty neat, and they're insulated. A lot less chance of them coming together and arcing. So I just thought I'd put that together. Also, on this end too, I was worried about these wires coming out of the plug, maybe breaking or being damaged. So I wanted to put some kind of strain relief on there. So I just tied it back with a tie wrap onto the handle. So that should work good. It's out of the way there and keeps the wires together better. So I think that'll work a lot better. Now I think these are going to be better cables, for jump starting the tractor. Good size there. Don't have to worry now about the cables overheating if I have to jump start my tractor. But I hope I don't have to jump start it because I put a new battery in it. Anyways, we'll see what happens. Thanks for watching. Sure hope you enjoyed the video, and I sure hope you can come back again next time. And don't forget, thumbs up me, leave me some comments. Hey, we'll talk to you soon.